Dinosaur Boy Chapter 16, Red Vines and Victor Hugo. I'm only slightly ashamed to admit that I screamed like a little girl. I'd like to think that there may have been the tiniest of dinosaur-worthy roars in there as well, maybe near the tail end of my ear-splitting shriek, but I don't think there was. It all sounded pretty high-pitched to me. Nothing like when I had lost my temper in the cafeteria. What? What is it? Elliot scrambled to his feet. I slammed the door of the armoire before he could see what was inside. Shh, Sylvie hissed at us. She was sitting at Principal Mathis's desk, and her irritated scowl was lit up by the computer screen in front of her. She made no move to join us in front of the armoire of death. Quiet, what did you find? Principal Mathis, I pointed feebly at the lizard head door. Her head. Ew, Elliot declared, and immediately opened the door to see for himself. I stepped out of the way so I wouldn't have to see it again. It's probably just her mask, Sylvie said, sounding bored as she continued to stare at the computer screen and punch keys. Her human mask. She's full Martian, remember? She needs a disguise to fit in here. Awesome. Elliot appeared around the side of the armoire, holding Principal Mathis's face in one hand. Inside the armoire, I spotted a blank mannequin head. The stretchy plastic face must have been draped over it, causing the illusion of Principal Mathis's severed head. I watched Elliot stretch the face out in his hands, crumple it into a handful of skin, then stretch it out again. A horrible thought occurred to me. Sylvie, I said, looking hard at her face through the glow of the computer, you're not wearing a human mask, are you? She laughed. No, I don't need a mask. I'm half human, remember, and I take after my mother. Good, I said, and shuddered. I've got to get something like this for Halloween, Elliot said, mostly to himself as he kept playing with the mask. Still disgusted by the whole thing, I turned away from Elliot and opened the armoire door to see what else was inside. The topmost shelf held the now naked mannequin head. There was also a metal stand full of business cards and several rows of white boxes. There wasn't enough light to read the tiny print on the business cards, so I stuffed one in my pocket for later and grabbed one of the white boxes instead. Inside, there was a tangle of pink straps and buckles. I had to turn the whole thing over several times in my hands before I realized that it was a harness. It looked kind of like the one that my mom had bought for Fanny, only Principal Mathis's was bigger and bright pink. I was also covered with a cheap-looking plastic gemstones. Next to the harness was a spray can. I held up the can to watch the light from outside, and I could just barely make out the words "Good Boy" written in large white letters. Underneath, in slightly smaller letters, were the words "Behavior Modification Spray." Principal Mathis must have a big dog, based on the size of the harness. The bottom shelf was crammed full of boxes. They had been arranged kind of like a Jenga puzzle, so that every single inch of space on the shelf was taken up. I wiggled the box free. Red vines. The entire shelf was stuffed full of red vines. Weird. Just weird. Hey, Sawyer. Elliot peered around the side of the cabinet. He was wearing Principal Mathis's face over his own. Detention, he declared, through Principal Mathis's lips, shaking an accusatory finger at me. We have a zero-tolerance policy here, Mr. Bronson. Boys, Sylvie scolded. I need a hand over here. I smacked Elliot on the side of the head and went to join Sylvie in front of the computer. There's nothing strange on her hard drive, she informed us, just school stuff. The school probably owns the computer, so she wouldn't risk putting anything on there that might give her away as a Martian. Then what are we still looking at the computer for? Elliot asked, wearing his own face again and squinting at the bright screen from the other side of Sylvie. I want to get into her personal email. I think I know her username, but I don't know her password. Sylvie typed a few keys and hit enter. Access denied. Password does not match username. Sylvie bit her lip in frustration. Can't you hack it? Elliot asked. Sylvie turned to him, an accusatory expression on her face. What, just because I'm half Martian, you think I'm a computer nerd? Elliot shrugged. I don't know. You gotta be more advanced than us, right? I mean, you got to Earth somehow, and no humans have walked on Mars yet. Martian scientists may be more advanced, Sylvie said, but I'm 11. I only assigned myself the computer because I'm pretty sure I'm better at it than you guys. But that's not really saying much, is it? If you... Guys, I interrupted. This isn't helping. We need to think. If you were Principal Mathis, what would your password be? Mantis? Elliot suggested, looking only half serious. I already tried every variation of her name I could think of, Sylvie said. What about her birthday? I suggested. I don't know her birthday, Sylvie said with a shrug. People choose passwords that are meaningful to them in some way, but she doesn't have much personal stuff around here. It's hard to guess what would mean something to her. She gestured at the principal's desk, which was completely bare except for the computer, her nameplate, and a small stack of manila envelopes, or manila folders. Try red vines, I suggested, thinking of the cabinet. Access denied. Licorice, I tried again. Access denied. This is making me hungry, Elliot complained, eyeing the bottom shelf of the cabinet. Do you think Mathis would miss one box of red vines? Yes, Sylvie answered it immediately. Really? Elliot looked disappointed. How much candy can one Martian eat? She's probably selling it, Sylvie explained. There's a huge black market for Earth candy on Mars. All those red vines would be worth a fortune there. I turned my attention back to our password problem. Suddenly I remembered the harness. I think she has a dog, I ventured. Dog? Puppy? Canine? Access denied, access denied, access denied. This is going to take all night, Elliot complained, looking at his watch and yawning. My dad gets up for work at 4:30. I have to sneak back into the house before then. Out of ideas, I looked around the office for help. Principal Mathis's lone piece of artwork caught my eye. He who opens a school door closes a prison. Victor Hugo. Try Hugo, I suggested. Sylvie typed the 4 letters, and suddenly Principal Mathis's inbox appeared on the screen. Nice, Elliot said, and leaned over Sylvie's shoulder. I frowned. Martians use Gmail? I asked skeptically. Sylvie nodded, her face serious. Google started on Mars, you know. Earth is just their beta testing ground. She scrolled through screen after screen of mundane emails, mostly to and from teachers and other school personnel. Boring, Elliot declared. Principal Mathis is the most uninteresting alien ever. Wait, Sylvie said. This might be something. She clicked on an email from someone named Client J. To Principal Mathis. Dear Matilda, attached please find my completed purchase order for the shipment we discussed. My buyers are very eager to acquire their new pets and are also interested in seeing your line of accessories. I trust you will provide feeding instructions as well as assurances that all specimens are purebred. Several of my clients have small children and are concerned about the potentially aggressive nature of hybrids. Please see the purchase order for more detailed specifications on this matter. Sincerely, J.P. Tabar, Executive VP, Jupiter's Finest Pet Emporium. Our mission, to find you a pet as unique as you are. Pets, Elliot read aloud from me. Principal Mathis sells pets? Thinking of something, I pulled the business card out of my pocket and held it up so I could read it by the light of the computer screen. Matilda C. Mathis, Senior Vice President, Exotic Exports, purveyor of rare pets and sweet treats. Offices on Mars, Jupiter, and coming soon, Venus. I guess so, I said, although something about this whole thing wasn't making much sense to me. Why would Principal Mathis be hiding a classroom full of students if her secret job was selling pets? There was a faint squeal of car brakes outside. Elliot, who was closest to the window, ran over and peeked through the open blinds. The security guard is back. The computer, I yelled, slamming the laptop shut. He'll be able to see the light. Wait! Sophie grabbed the computer, knelt under the desk, and opened it again. I want to see the attachment to this email. I'm downloading it now. He's getting out of the car, Elliot exclaimed from the window. Sylvie! I exclaimed, looking nervously toward the window. We don't have time to read that. We've got to go. I'm printing it, Sylvie announced, still under the desk. Where's the printer? I spotted it over on top of the bookshelf. I fumbled around in the dark for the power button, basically just pushing buttons until something flashed green. He's coming up the steps, Elliot squealed, backing away from the window. We've got to get out of here. Get the email, Sawyer, Sylvie ordered, running for the door of the office. Elliot followed her. I felt around the paper tray on the front of the printer, but it was empty. It's not here, I whispered. It didn't print. Forget about it. Let's go, Elliot implored. I followed them into the front office. Elliot scooted past Miss Helen's desk and headed for the back door. Besides the front door where the security guard was, it was the only way out of the building. It was a good plan, except the back door was at the end of a long hallway, immediately opposite the front door. There was no way we would make it, not without being seen. I grabbed the back of Elliot's shirt and pulled him back into the front office, just as the door swung.